And plus, if you're going to make the whole war in the prequel trilogy, if you're going to make it all a big conspiracy, who's to say that the original Star War wasn't a big conspiracy? Maybe Luke Skywalker was secretly working for the Empire. If they're that elaborate and they're that controlling, well, you could believe that. But of course, that's another reason why they don't make any sense. I think the main good thing about the movies is it's like a big defense for democracy, and which is good. Almost everyone will agree democracy is good, but at the same time, what what makes democracies good isn't that the majority opinion rules. What makes democracies good is that the rights of everyone uh, are enforced. It's things like constitutional rights and civil rights and human rights that make democracies work, where it's the uh, even if an individual is part of a minority, they still get to live their life in a way that they see fit. And I don't know, maybe that's too big or too controversial a subject to put in a movie like that. But he raised it anyways. One thing I kind of thought was interesting though about the prequels that most people I talk to think was just a horrible idea was the midichlorians. I think the midichlorians, even though the execution wasn't that great, I think they weren't that bad of an idea. And although you could say that about the whole movie, there were so many, you know, bad ideas that really could have been made better with good acting, But the acting is, and it's crazy because so many of them are great actors, and they're just horrible in that movie, which speaks to what a good director can do. But the midichlorians, I kind of think I know where George Lucas was trying to go with the midichlorians, um, and I think it's linked to the idea of Anakin being a virgin birth, and I think you kind of try to get into what was what philosophical school and outlook George Lucas was or it's coming from, and he is a Christian. He's a bona fide card-carrying Christian, but at the same time, he's not like a Pat Roberts Christian. He's a uh, constantly smokes weed, meditating in the middle of crop circles while holding a crystal in one hand and the skull of a dolphin in the other hand. He's a complete super hippie drippy new age kind of person. It's in some ways kind of a man after my own heart. But what he was trying to do with the midichlorians, at least what I think, is sort of have this idea of a virgin birth kind of almost explained. How if you didn't have sperm, you could have like some sort of weird microbes in the human body that are almost kind of pseudo-conscious and controlled by some sort of goddish thing like a force, and come together and make a virgin birth. And it kind of comes, I think, if you want to look at something that comes from sort of the same uh, line of thought, a good example is James Cameron's special on the Exodus, where he's, like said before, it's a mistake to think, uh, that there's only, like a Pat Roberts type Christian on one end, and then a Richard Dawkins kind of atheist, skeptic, materialist on the other end. And, and the idea is, you know, he thinks that a lot of the miracles, in the Bible, and a lot of the miracles in mythology, and a lot of the legends and myths that we have, they kind of sort of happened, but they happened as a result of sort of like a weird science that we just don't necessarily understand right now. And it's almost, and it almost comes from like sort of the same line of thought as, the Ghostbusters, where, where there are ghosts, there is a supernatural, but science can sort of understand them to a point, and kind of prove them to a point. And the people that call themselves skeptics, they're not so much people that devoid of faith. They're more like people that are just in denial. They see the proof of the supernatural things. They just don't want to believe it. And I think that's kind of the road he was coming from when he put the metachlorians in. It was this kind of scientific hint that some of the supernatural things that we think are just purely impossible to prove, they're not as impossible to prove as you might think. What they probably should have done is they probably uh, should have got Morgan Freeman to play Qui-Gon, instead of Liam Neeson, because I think Morgan Freeman, when it comes to metachlorians, I mean, I think, maybe Morgan Freeman could have explained it better, because apparently he, seems to have a reputation of explaining, bizarre and far-reaching and outlandish concepts that otherwise would have sounded really stupid.